We're crossing the Puget Sound from Seattle to Victoria, the capital city of British Columbia. My longtime political friend Tony Quinn and I are as interested in seeing where the Legislative Assembly meets as most tourists are in admiring the city's landmark buildings and gorgeous gardens. We find that Victoria is a city of fewer than 100,000 residents, perched on the southern tip of Vancouver Island off of Canada's Pacific coast. Now, as we enter Victoria's inner harbor, we catch a teasing glimpse of the British Columbia Capitol building, known as Parliament House. And from the harbor, we can admire the city's other landmark building, the historic Empress Hotel. But we'll save that for later. As we approach Parliament House on shore, we come first to what we would call a totem pole. But members of the Northwest Coast First Nations have much more specific names for cedar poles carved like this one, depending on their purpose, placement, or kinship group. The Capitol building itself would be considered a bargain today. The original budget was $500,000, but by the time it was occupied in 1898, the cost had almost doubled. For that, the Victorians got an impressive white marble building constructed with neo-Baroque symmetry, multiple domes, and two end pavilions. A gold-covered statue of Captain George Vancouver sits atop the central dome. We couldn't wait to go inside. Our attention went immediately to the ornate domed ceiling and started down from there. A balcony surrounded the rotunda below. And at the bottom, we were shown the restoration of a 500-year-old canoe that belonged to the Coast Salish peoples, who occupied these lands before the first European explorers arrived in the late 1700s. After that, we spotted reference to a talking stick, an ancient communications tool used in many indigenous cultures to promote respect during meetings. May the lawmakers who meet in this building take that symbolism to heart. Our attention was then drawn to the official shield and motto of British Columbia, which translates from Latin Splendor Sine Occasu to Splendor Without Diminishment. In other words, it refers to the idea that the sun never sets over the British Empire. With that bit of inspiration, we got our first peek into the 93-seat unicameral Legislative Assembly. At the time we were there in the summer of 2025, politics were as divided in British Columbia as they were in the United States. On the left side were seated elected representatives of British Columbia's majority party, the New Democratic Party, or NDP, referred to as His Majesty's government. On the right side are seated members of His Majesty's loyal opposition, consisting primarily of Conservative Party members, plus a handful of independents and minor party representatives. The two sides were almost equally divided. As we went on to admire the beautiful stained glass windows that lined the members' lobby, we learned that the summer's major issues had focused heavily on U.S. tariff threats and the need to protect local industries. Also, indigenous land and title disputes were the subject of fierce debate. And health concerns involved wait times at treatment centers, as well as involuntary care for severe mental health and addiction cases. Ready for some fresh air? Let's step outside into the beautiful gardens for which the city of Victoria is known. Have a look around. Local color can take many forms. Brace yourself. Next to Parliament House is the venerable Empress Hotel, now known as the Fairmont Empress Hotel to reflect its current management. The hotel opened in 1908 and has been serving high tea in the afternoons ever since. The Empress was built by the Canadian Pacific Railway to stimulate luxury travel. The company favored a chateau-esque style, which used short spires, gables, and turrets to create a Gothic look. No wonder the Empress bills itself as Canada's castle on the coast. Speaking of the coast, we found our ride back to Seattle waiting on a dock at the inner harbor. The Victoria Clipper 5 will take us back in comfort. Soon we're admiring fine-looking apartments and condominiums that line the harbor. No wonder Vancouver Island is thought of as a resort and beach destination. After a while, our captain came on the intercom to announce a whale sighting. It turns out that a pod of orcas had been spotted and was being followed by another boat, much closer than we were. At least for a brief moment, we did catch sight of several dorsal fins, but by the time we reached a lighthouse, our wildlife adventure had ended, and so had our look at British Columbia's charming capital city.